In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these realistic-ish building ruins using nothing but foam board and filler. Let's crack on. So first thing first, I'm using your standard 5mm foam board, but we're going to have to take the paper off it. Now in the UK, the only way I've ever succeeded is using this West foam stuff from the range, and the way that I get it off is I get a hairdryer and I literally just heat it up on one side and eventually the glue will melt and you'll be able to peel it off. I do have a video where I showed 4 different ways of getting the paper off. If you're in the US, you can just buy easy peel stuff. Once you have the paper off your foam board, we're going to texture it now, and I recommend doing this with this sheet material because it's just easier. I take some tin foil or aluminum foil for you Americans, scrunch it up into a ball, and yeah, you just press into it. I do that on both sides, and then we're going to have to talk about bricks. Now that's such a fascinating subject, I know, but bricks are generally twice as long as they are high and wide. So in this case, with our foam board, it's 5mm thick because that's the standard of foam board. So you would expect maybe a brick that is 1 centimeter long and then 5mm wide and tall. However, I did actually try that and the bricks were just too small for the scale. It would maybe be appropriate for like a modern day house and stuff like that, but I really didn't like them and I wasted quite a lot of time cutting out quite a lot of bricks. So we're going to have to sort of fake it if we want the classic sort of building that's like a castle-y ruins. Now the way that I do this in this case is to cut my foam board into 2cm strips. And then once I've got lots of 2cm strips, I'm going to then cut them into 1cm like by 2cm strips. So it's 2 centimeters long and 1 centimeter high. Now the thickness there is only 5mm. And then what I did at this point is I put them in a container with some stones. A metal container here would be better because the metal itself will create some more impact. Shake it about. Now I'm not here trying to get texture because we've already done that. What I'm trying to do is actually just round the corners so that the bricks look a little bit more natural and not like perfectly out of a machine. Now you can try tiling up those bricks, but you'll end up with like an asymmetrical building pattern, which I'm sure actually is probably realistic, but that's not what we're going to go with here. What we are going to do is glue 2 of these bricks together. Now it's going to be a little bit unsightly because we're going to have a gap between the 2, but we're going to fix that later. Once you glue your bricks together, you'll end up with a brick that is 2 centimeters long and then 1 centimeter tall and 1 centimeter wide. Do that for lots of bricks. You're going to need quite a few, and then you can probably start gluing it all together. But what I did to test this out was I took some filler, that's spackle or joint compound for you Americans, and we're going to fill in the cracks. Now there are some of the bricks where you will literally only see the ends. So for the corner pieces, you're only going to see an end piece on some of them. So in that case, you only need to fill in one side of the small side sections because the rest are going to be covered in bricks. You could glue all of your bricks together in the pattern that you want and then use filler, or you could filler in some bricks before you do it. I sort of did a bit of a combination of the two. Now when you do this, please mix a paint in with your filler, especially if your filler is white, because if it chips or anything like that, you'll see the white through it. I didn't do that and I deeply regret my actions. But when you're using the filler to fill in your bricks, what I would recommend is to try and do it very, very smooth. You don't want much texture at all. I did, once it had sort of dried, I did take my finger and sort of slightly create like a bumpy texture, but you don't need to be that precise with it. We can always cover it later. It's not really the end of the world. You just basically want to make it so that the gap between your 2 bits of foam board isn't immediately obvious. And then to create the actual ruins, we're going to need a base. Now I'm using EPVC, which I've heard might be called Sintra in America, but I can't necessarily confirm that. With this base, literally you can use anything though. Just cut out the shape that you want your pieces to be. I'm going to do like an L shape because I want a corner piece. I'm going to do that twice and a little bit of a straight piece, but just cut that out, bevel the sides just so it all blends in with your table when you're done. Once you've got your base, I'm then going to just draw a right angle set of lines so that I know where my building is going to be, and then I'm going to measure inwards by 2 centimeters because I'm going to have my bricks like double stacked. Then it's a case of gluing. Now I think I mostly used hot glue, but you can just use PVA. Hot glue just basically means that it's going to stay in place whilst you're doing it, whereas if you use PVA it's going to take a little while. I would recommend starting with the corner pieces if that's what you're going to do, because your corner's going to have to be essentially interlinked. If you ever see like a brick building, you'll know what I'm talking about here, but basically you've got to do your corner so that one edge is then offset by another brick. It's very simple. When you're gluing your bricks, you want to make sure that your textured foam board sides are the ones that are showing outwards or inwards, not vertically up and down. It's not a very difficult process to just sit there and glue bricks, but it is going to take a while. You can make this as big or as small as you like. You could do windows if you wanted to. You just cut out little bits of foam board and make it look like a window shape, whatever. I didn't do anything fancy like that. I'd literally just keep it down to some like quite old and demolished ruins. So I did my outside layer of bricks first, and then once that had finished, I did my inside layer of bricks. Now you can, if you want, keep your inside layer symmetrical with your outside layer, or you can do what I did, which is slightly offset it. I'm not sure which one's realistic. I don't really care. And once everything's glued in place, I would recommend at this point to take your knife and to just damage up some of the bricks if that's what you wanted. The bits that you take off with your knife, just keep around because you might want to put them on the base to look like some bricks have fallen on the ground. The amount of damage you do is completely up to you. Once you've got it all in place and it's damaged, it's time to start adding the filler. You could have added some filler earlier on, or you might now want to do it here. Mix in your colour. If you've got white filler, then I would recommend mixing in black because this is going to be grey and it will sort of essentially make a grey. And you just want to fill in all the gaps. Any bits where you can see two of the foam board bits together, that's what you want to fill in. Try not to fill in the gaps between the bricks themselves, so obviously keep each brick individual. It's not that difficult, and you'll probably see the gap at this stage, but when you paint it, you won't really see it. I did glue on like an extra brick on the ground and stuff like that. You can do as much damage or rubble as you like. For the base texture, I did something I don't normally do. I got some brown paint, some sand and some filler, mixed it together and made like a paste and like put that on. Mine didn't really look that good, so it was okay, but I just wanted to try something different. And then I took some of the Army Painter XPS Safe foam spray because I wanted to get in the nooks and crannies, and so I just gave it a spray of that. And to be fair, I quite liked the colour there, but I also wanted to protect it as well, so I did take some black paint and some PVA or Mod Podge with a little bit of water, try and get that in the cracks as well. So I just covered the whole thing in black paint. Then I took like a darkish grey, covered the bricks in the darkish grey, covered the ground in a brown. I did try and paint some bricks a slightly different colour to what the original grey was, but the colours that I picked were very similar to that grey, so in the end you could barely tell that I did that. You can be a little bit more dramatic than you think though. Once you're happy with it and you've got it all painted in your colours, it's a case of dry brushing. Just dry brush with lighter shades of grey. Ultimately you can go up to white, but once you get to white, do be very sparing because the juxtaposition can be very strong. Just, dry brush it up until you're happy with it. And then I'm just going to throw on a homemade black wash. Very simple, black paint and water. Whack it on. Flock up the ground with some PVA and some flock, whatever you've got. And yeah, jobs are good. And you could dry brush it again, but I'm really happy with the way that it looks. So that's it. I honestly think that they look pretty damn decent just using foam board and filler. Yes, it's a little bit time consuming, but honestly, if you're going to be cutting out individual bricks without using a hot wire cutter and an XPS foam, then, you know, it's going to take that long. I'm very happy with the results. I think it looks great. Thank you to my Patreons. I do really appreciate you guys. Thank you for your continued support. Like the video. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.